stand by for action.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dave Milner. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy. I want to welcome you to part 2 of an interview that I did with Kaiser Shuff on his show Kaiser's Castle, which took place on May the 14th, 2019. Hope you enjoy it. A little bit of housekeeping first, though. Remember that my Facebook account has been disabled by Facebook as part of the purge of people on the right that took place some weeks ago. But you can still reach me so far at UBG Contact on Twitter. That's where you can contact me with questions, comments, show suggestions, also American suggestions. I'm also available as Dave Milner on MeWe, or you can find me as Dave Milner or Agador, that's Aggedor, on Minds, Spreely, Mumblet, and Amagador on Gab. Now on with the show.
Here's been my experience with the UN. I'll just tell you, I've done several missions for the UN, also for USAID. There's a lot of different things that, look, when you talk about globalist and globalism, you have to understand those policies are enforced by our own nation states, capital S states. And if you're on my channel, you already know what that means. That means your nation state. Small s is your state, where you live. I live in Ohio. Dave lives in another state. People in Germany live in Munich. Well, that's a small s state. Or they live in Berlin. That's a small s state. You know, they're different provinces. I'm just giving cities out, but people can look it up and see the different states. Bavaria, you know, and whatnot. I'm not going to get deep into all that. But the point being is, nobody on a local level, and that's where politics comes from, the local level. We know where the resources need to be used best. The government, big S, does not. And that's what they fear. Honestly, they did this with Reagan the last time. They vilified it. If you think what Trump's going through is unique, you're absolutely wrong. Because it happened to Reagan. And what happened to him? John Hinckley, who the Hinckley family and the Bush family were very close friends with. And Hinckley's still the only person that was an attempted, I'm not even going to say the word, of a sitting president that got to go home and see mommy and gets weekend outings. So figure that one out. And remember, Bush Sr. was forced upon our Ronald Reagan. Now look 2 years into it. How many people were forced upon Trump? And who, like, I'm speaking to Speaker Ryan. He was a globalist, and who was the one who blocked, when Trump had an actual majority, who was it who blocked the wall or a vote for the wall? That would be Speaker Ryan. And so what you saw was an attempted soft coup. Speaking of, I've talked about coups before. You need the 3 M's: military, media, and money. And they had 2 of them, but they didn't have the military. And
they had 2, but not 3. Yeah, you're right, man.
But we need to kick out the UN, and then we need to reinstate our firm belief and agreement that our country is our country, and we will hold it sovereign. This sovereign citizenship, that's true in some ways, but in other ways, there's something bigger, and it's called your country. And when Trump said, I'm a nationalist, well, guess what? In my opinion, there's nothing wrong with a nationalist. and they always try to say, "Oh, nationalist is national social." Wait, what's that second word? Socialist? That's that second word.
No, that's Bernie.
Yeah, that's Bernie. Yeah, and the same thing with these people saying they're democratic socialists. Look, when I was in Germany, the DDR was the Deutsches Democratic Republic. That was East Germany, okay? But they were the Socialist Democratic Republic. Notice how these phraseologies are still coming to hold. They just change word line. It's absolutely disgusting.
It's like calling this nation a democracy
When we're not.
Yeah. When we're not. And sadly, I even hear some conservatives fall into that trap. But lefties do it all the time. I almost never hear a leftist call our nation a republic. And to quote the underground professor, we are a constitutionally federated republic. That's what we are.
That's exactly true. And the first person that ever pointed it out to me before I went into federal service or the military, Reginald Wagstaff, a black English professor, okay? And I said, we're a democracy, being a high school brain full of mush Marxist at the time. And he goes, where do you see democracy in your Pledge of Allegiance? You don't. It's to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's a fact. And the other thing they fail to talk about, and this really irks my soul to my core, is that we are a small s experiment. That means all those 50 states and even our territories, we get to experiment, and maybe we'll find something that works better, or maybe we won't. But we're not going to waste time on the American populace if one small s state, and honestly, the Civil War, for everything that people will say is a virtue, it was a bane to states' rights. And I do call the Civil War the Northern War of Aggression, because you remember how that war started.
Oh, certainly, yes.
And I'm from the North, and it saddens me.
Well, I'll say this about the Civil War. Now, a lot of people point out, and rightly, that the South had in its Constitution, the Confederate States of America had in its Constitution provision for slavery. In fact, no state could have applied to be in the Confederacy had they won if they did not advocate and use slavery.
Which was going to be replaced by the cotton gin. So, I mean, that was...
Well...
Nobody could see technology.
I look at it this way, all right? Yes, the big bugs in the South were fighting for that. That's what they wanted to fight for. The poor whites in the South, most of them didn't want slavery because it took away their jobs. The poor whites in the South were fighting the Civil War because, as you said, they felt that it was a war of aggression.
Yeah, and they were under indentured servitude too.
In a lot of cases, they were. Yes, see, this is something that people don't understand. Indentured servitude was big in all over our nation for a long time, and you did not have to be black to be a slave. That is something that a lot of people understand. But you were talking about globalism and the difference between superstates and the United States. And one of the things that strikes me as a big reason to save the United States of America and save our philosophy and preserve it is the fact that ours is the only nation that I know of that gathers sovereign individuals into a sovereign nation.
Yep.
It's fantastic. Okay, we're a constitutionally federated republic, but we're also a confederation of sovereign individuals. Each and every citizen has their own power, and more power than ever in history, ever in recorded history, which really gives me gives me a big reason to keep on supporting our country. And yes, what you said about Generation Z. Hopefully, they will continue this. Now, when I was talking about the Brexit thing and the EU, we have to watch out for people, for the false prophets, for the double dealers and people like that, like Paul Ryan,
Nigel
you were,
Farage.
and Nigel Farage. Now, that's the other headline, which I know you're going to have in your links that I want to talk about. Nigel Farage is willing to deal with Jeremy Corbyn in the United Kingdom to get what he calls Brexit. Now, two things about that. First of all, what Nigel Farage calls Brexit may not be what the people of the UK voted for. And I'll just tell your listeners what they voted for. I've seen the ballot. The vote was very simple. Do you want to remain in the European Union, or do you want to leave the European Union?
Right.
That's it. No other treaty stipulations, no conditions, no anything else. Do you want to stay? Do you want to leave? That was what was on the ballot, and most people voted to leave. But you've had people like Theresa May, who's the prime minister over there, delaying the process and putting condition after condition on it. It's turned into Brexit in name only, and the country over there, Kaiser, is a powder keg. And you have people who championed Brexit, like Nigel Farage, another double dealer. Americans, you know how people like Paul Ryan and John Boehner and people like that claimed to be Republicans and claimed to be conservatives, and yet just let the libs run wild. Well,
complete disclosure, I'm from Ohio. John Boehner has not been in my Boehner has not been in my district. I never would have voted for him if he was. But the point is, it is a two-headed snake that feeds the same globalist power. And of course, you're a friend of mine. You can say whatever you want about yourself, but I always find it funny that if somebody identifies a problem, globalist, people who are banksters, Smedley Butler even talked about the banksters and the different companies. His famous speech, which I'll link in the description, on I was a strong-arm man for the white shoe boys on Wall Street. Famous speech. And Smedley Butler won the Medal of Honor twice. And was very correct. And he even stopped a coup against FDR that they tried to pull. And we're seeing the same thing. History does not repeat. It rhymes, brother. And but they always say if you use those terminologies, well, you're anti-Semitic, you're anti-Jewish. You know what? Some of those people happen to be Jewish. It happens to be what it is. But that doesn't make all Jews bad. And that's where it gets twisted, because globalism is not just a Jewish thing. Boehner is not a Jewish guy.
No.
And so that's why, and you have neocons, neoconservatives, and neo-progs, neo-progressives. Hillary Clinton's one. Are anybody I just mentioned Jewish? I don't think so. And that's my 2 cents.
No, you're right about that. I mean, that's a red herring that the left puts up to try and distract people from the realities of what you just said, that the globalists are in both parties, in all parties, and not just in this country. I mean, I talked about Nigel Farage willing to make a deal with Jeremy Corbyn in the UK just so he can get what he calls Brexit. Now, for Americans who don't know who Jeremy Corbyn is, this is a guy who has powwowed and is very good friends with Hamas members and with members of the Irish Republican Army. And you may have to do a little bit of research to find out the kind of evil stuff that the IRA did in the UK in the 1970s and 80s. They did things like blew up buses with children in them and stuff like that. These were some nasty individuals, and Jeremy Corbyn is right in there with them. He's basically their version. I would say, Kaiser, that he's their version of Nancy Pelosi, and he stands a good chance of being their next prime minister. I mean, this guy is a complete dirtbag. And for Nigel Farage, who a lot of people over here in the States consider to be a hero because of Brexit, to deal with him just shows Farage's true colors. Nigel Farage is a politico. I think he's using Brexit. He has created a thing called the Brexit Party, which is running in direct opposition to the United Kingdom Independence Party, which is the real Brexit Party. And I think he's doing it just to draw votes off of them.
Spite them like Perot did to Bush Sr., which honestly,
Right.
we dodged the bullet with Bush Sr., but we got more of an, I'm going to put this non-politically correct, ass fucking from Bill Clinton. Billy Boy Clinton.
Oh
and,
yeah.
but, you know, hey, look, Carter was replaced by Clinton as being the biggest failure president we had. And I never thought we'd see another one like that. And Obama proved me wrong. And it makes me laugh, honestly, brother, that there's still this false left-right paradigm. Because if you put both hands out, right and left, and see where people kill people. Look, they say Hitler killed 6 million, whatever. That number can be in dispute. It can't, whatever. I'm not even going to get in that debate. But what I will say is communism does the same thing. Who has more people killed, Nazi Germany or communism?
Well, Hitler is said to have killed 6 million people. Stalin is said, conservatively, to have killed 30.
Then Pol Pot,
30 million.
And then Pol Pot.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you add in Mao, which, remember, that's why the difference is Obama was a Marxist, which is a Russian communist, just like Kennedy was. Remember, Kennedy was undermining Reagan during that time. That stuff came out when the KGB dropped all their files on how many times he said, we're working for you, not against you. And also, a brother of mine comes on my program, Baz. He has worked against the IRA. And the last show we did, he outed a lot of stuff with, honestly, his time with the IRA. When he went to Afghanistan and other places, you know, we both went to different places. He's English, by the way. Probably would agree with you on most of what you say, but maybe not all. But that's okay. We can always agree to disagree, and you'd love to talk to him, trust me. But the interesting thing is, he's like, we're noticing the same bomb building skills. And it's because the IRA actually had scientists, people going out there becoming physicists to learn how to do things. And guess who were paying them? Muslim extremists to come there and teach them how to do things.
They trained at some of the same camps.
Yes.
As well.
Yes. And that's a fact.
You had Muslims and IRA people at the same time together training in some of the same terrorist training camps. So no, it doesn't.
Little drummer girl.
Surprise me. Yeah. It isn't a surprise at all. But I'll tell you this, Kaiser. There is hope, like we talked about with the kids earlier, and with people like Tommy Robinson. I mean, this guy has got the constitution, I swear, of a vending machine. You know how those things can take a beating. This guy has been imprisoned. He's been attacked in every way you can imagine. He was beaten almost to death in one of his prison stays by a bunch of Muslims. And yet this guy just keeps on going. And he's now running for a minister of the European Parliament.
MEP.
Yeah. And he's doing that through the UKIP party. Now, for Americans, okay, Tommy Robinson is running for this office, but he's basically running for it to bust it up. He wants to be the representation for the people of the UK in the EU who have said, we want out. And they're doing everything they can to try and make sure this guy, who is very popular with the people of the United Kingdom, gets silenced. And one of the things that they're trying to do is to get him put in prison. And they keep on trying and they keep on failing. And they tried again today. And this is what I was going to tell you about Kaiser. What happened today was that he had a contempt of court case, which was thrown out last summer because the Attorney General of the United Kingdom basically found that it was based on all sorts of false premises. It was a completely bogus case. They found one thing that they could charge Tommy Robinson with, though, and that is that he was doing a live feed outside of the courtroom in an area where the police said he could be. Remember, this is the UK, guys. They do not have a free press over there.
Right.
I don't think that they do. And he asked some of the people who had been found guilty. These were Muslim men who were found guilty of child sex, crimes, raping children.
Grooming is their nice little tagline for that, but that is exactly what it is, brother.
Yeah, I try not to call it grooming because that makes it sound like they were chasing after the kids with a hairbrush, and really what they were doing was just pimping them out and doing things like having taking one girl and having her get gangbanged by 20 Muslim men, and things like that. So
no, I agree with you, but I mean, just like there's a bride and a groom. The groom is expected to groom the bride, and that's the disconnect of language. Yeah. And they're grooming them for sex. That's what a groom does. And but their sex was prostitution, forced slavery prostitution.
Oh yeah, in the worst possible way. I won't get into all of the horrible things that they did, or that are typically done with these gangs, with these rape gangs is what I prefer to call them. But Mr. Robinson, was asking one or two of them as they left, and had been found guilty, by the way. He was asking one or two of them, well, when they left, what'd you think of your the fact that you were found guilty and that kind of thing? And they told him to be honest here. They told him to piss off and other things. Now, Mr. Robinson is going to be charged. He is. They found today when he went to court. What they wanted to charge him with, and what they are going to proceed to charge him with, is going to be with the fact that he upset the Muslims that had been found guilty of raping children. In other words, they want to charge him with harassment of them. Because he was asking them these questions, because he upset them by asking them these questions. And I got to tell you, Kaiser, somehow I felt like there wasn't going to be a resolution for this today. I don't know what it was that made me think this. I was praying for Tommy and everything, but I did not feel like there was going to be a resolution to this. I didn't feel like there was going to be an end to it one way or the other, and there's not going to be. I've heard rumor that he's going back in July to go on trial for this upsetting of the Muslims. and I know you're going to link this. This is from the Daily Express from today.
Yep.
The headline here is Tommy Robinson to face new court proceedings over contempt allegations. And what that basically means is that they're going to clear the slate and charge him again with contempt of court. And I'm guessing this is going
They're
to be
just renaming it.
Yeah, they're just renaming it. I'm guessing this is going to be felony contempt of court, and it's going to center around upsetting these rapists, these these men who have been found guilty of rape. So they're going to try and put him in jail, in prison, and that will be so that he can be gotten out of the way. In other words, so that he can be killed.
Exactly.
Now, Americans, this is something that you should pay attention to, because this is political correctness gone wild. Tommy Robinson's main crime is that he calls out the evils of Islam. He talks about the child sex slavery. He talks about the beatings of non-Muslims. He talks about the mistreatment of women, of Muslim women, in the Muslim in the Muslim world, in the Sharia system, as they say it. And he releases the dogs of war. Now,
no, that is not being captured in the
Okay.
thing.
Okay, all right, and he brings this out into the open and tells people about this, and this is not something that the Sharia compliant British government, who have been bribed to make Mohammedans into a special protected species, are prepared to deal with. So they want to silence him.
And that's the whole point of this thing, is to make special protected classes. Mm-hmm. They've done this. Tommy was the beginning. That's a fact.
Exactly, he was.
But they've gone after Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin.
Yeah.
They've also gone, who's also running for MEP, and they've also gone after a Scottish guy that all he did, I can't remember his name now, or it eludes me, but all he did was, as a goof to his girlfriend, puts it on YouTube and makes his pug do, shake my hand kind of thing. But the pug puts his hand up and throws a Roman salute. And honestly,
right.
This whole Nazi salute shit needs to stop, because that is a classical Roman salute. And guess what? And up until the 1920s, when Hitler came to power and the war broke out, guess how we pledged allegiance to the flag? A Roman salute, because that is the classical salute to a republic. And nobody wants to talk about the reality of words, about actions, about salutes. Look, the salute we do in the military is nothing more, and I have to be explicit on this, raising your visor with your weapon hand, the right hand. Most people are right-handed. And it was raising your visor, i.e. putting your hat at your cap brim. That is the tradition of the American salute. And we don't tilt it up. We push it up, right? And our hands aren't tilted outwards, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing with the Roman salute. It was to praise our country and to show reverence to it. And yet, because of the war, we changed it to hand on your heart. And whether people like that or not, it's a fact, and we destroy history and we destroy tradition by little pecks of nuance that's bullshit.
No, you're right. And I will say that, as far as I know, the only difference between the old Roman salute and the Nazi salute is that the Roman salute ended with the arm straight out, and the Nazi salute ends with it up to about a 45 degree angle or something.
Angle, right.
Yeah. And that's really the only difference. As a matter of fact, that's why the Nazis did it that way. They copied the Roman salute because they, it was very fascinating. The Romans wrote this themselves. They said that the Germans are either, at your feet or at your throat. The Germans had a great deal of admiration for ancient Rome. They did. And when you pointed out earlier, what you pointed out earlier was absolutely true. Hitler's vision for Europe was that it was to be a giant trading bloc, which would encompass all of the European countries that we know of now, including Russia, and probably including Siberia, and Japan. Japan would have everything below that. I don't know how they intended to divide up Africa, but it was to be a sort of pseudo Roman Empire. Honestly, I think if the Axis had won the war, they would have eventually wound up fighting each other. But flash forward 70 years, and as you said, what do you see Junkers and the rest of them doing? You see them running a European Union and wanting to strengthen that union even, and now even talking serious talk about a European army, and that just to keep the nations in line.
They've already done it in France with the Yellow Vest movement. We've seen this. The vehicles are, look, Junkers, this is a fact Americans don't know. And you probably do know because you're as clued in as I am. But this really disgusts me. And I mean this in all sincerity. What was the name of that dive bomber that used to drop bombs in Poland and everywhere? Oh, it was the Junkers. Yeah, the Stuka made by Junker.
That's correct, yes.
And so he has a false citizenship. And look, this happened a lot during the Second World War, where people after the war migrated, and he is the grandchild of a Junker. And this is how they look. The only person who was a manufacturer was Krupp, and it was if I remember right, it was like a bastard son or something of a Krupp. It might have been a cousin. I don't know. It was somebody that was ancillary to the family. And he was given up as a petard to throw them off. And guess what? Krupp heavy manufacturing still exists in Germany. So does Tyson. So does Henschel. All these companies that had the ties back in the Second World War were allowed to elude any prosecution.
Oh, yeah.
And it was done, honestly, it was done by America, Britain, and then in 1948, Israel. Israel's complicit in this too. And that's the secrets they don't want out. And they're important because it's the globalist mentality in America, and this is what I think Trump is trying to fix. America became empire, and I believe it started under, my first war was the Gulf War, brother, and I believe it started under Bush Sr. And that's a Republican, and that's my thoughts.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you saw this these very close ties, and this was even before the Second World War, between companies like General Electric and Siemens, both of whom obviously are still in business. Very close business
Bayer,
ties.
who manufactured Zyklon B.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, this is the sort of thing that it's very difficult to avoid. But to my mind, just to kind of close things out, what we need to shoot for constantly is power to the individual as much as possible.
Yes.
Government can do some things well, but we have to be careful or it will run wild. There will be abuses because there's money and power to be had. And that is very difficult for some people to resist. In fact, it is impossible for some people to resist, because it's just, again, it's part of ego again. They have to have it. And you see it in all of the political families, even the Obamas. You saw, I swear I saw this, in my political spider sense, just, jangled all over when this happened, when Ted Kennedy introduced Obama in 2008. I said, there it is. They're handing off the torch.
Yep.
So now the Obamas are a fully invested political family. Let no one make any mistake. They have now have the inheritance. The Kennedys are still around, the younger ones, but for all intents and purposes, the torch has been passed along to the Obamas. They will carry this throughout this century.
That's why you're seeing the division still happening. Honestly, Obama started the division. Look, everybody can talk all the smack they want. I know Pink Floyd had a awesome album that came out called The Division Bell, and Obama rang it. And that's the purpose of this podcast, is how to unring it. I don't think there's a way to do it, but there's a way. We have to recognize what happened, when it happened, and we have to identify it. I mean, because if we don't, guess what? The people who are most they just are so adverse to bring this back are the people who lived under communism, because they see how it foments and it's coming to our shores in the West, and it will dilute and pollute us.
Well, you see what Croatia is doing, and Hungary and the Czech Republic. You see how they're reacting to the European Union, and that's
Italy and Austria now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean Italy, which actually surprises me, because they can, but the Visegrad countries certainly, because they understand what it was like to live under the boot of totalitarianism, and they don't want it. That's why if you take a vacation to Europe and you don't want to be just overwhelmed by Muslims, you'll go to Hungary or one of these other countries, or even or even go to Romania and take the Dracula tour, which, yes, folks, they have one.
It's an awesome tour, by the way.
I'm not going to get into some of the castles that they lived in there, because some of them, you look at them and you look at the prominences they were built on, and you go, how in the hell did they do that? But anyway, they know what it's like to live under this kind of totalitarianism, and they're not having any of it. And that's the reason, honestly, Kaiser, in my opinion, for the European army, they want to subjugate those countries, because they ain't going to do this voluntarily. They're just not going to do it. But Kaiser, I really want to thank you for having me on. This has been the second thing I've done since I've gotten back, and it's allowed me to vent a little bit. All I can say to people is, guys, recognize that it's not the rank and file that are evil on the left; it's their leaders. And they're leading the rest of the left around by the nose. And the best thing that we can do is be the best examples of the people that we want to be.
Yep.
Because if we compromise that for a temporary gain, whatever it is, it can be a wall, it can be a piece of legislation, whatever. Then we lose big in the end, and that we can't do. And I guess, Kaiser, I'd say to people, check me out. I'm Agador on, at Spreely, and also on Mumblet and on Gab. Yes. And I'm at UBG Contact on Twitter for now, until Twitter has a purge, which I'm sure they will fairly soon. And please check out The Unpleasant Blind Guy. It's a show that's on Spreaker.com, and it's also on YouTube.com through SHR Media, and it's on the Western Free Radio Network. Showtimes are Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern and midnight Saturday. And doing a, wrapping up a series called The Way Back, and The Way Back commentaries right now. And then I'm going to be rolling into something brand new, which will be a somewhat of a merger with the English Defense League radio show, which I'm on live at 3:30 p.m. Thursdays and Sundays on Blog Talk Radio. Just go there and look for, EDL Radio, and you'll find it, and you'll find us. I want to thank you, Kaiser, for having me on, because it's been a really good discussion.
Awesome. Well, we'll talk after the show real quick, but
All right.
I'm going to play the outro. I did a poem today of Rudyard Kipling. My God, my words are just salad today, right, brother?
Rudyard Kipling.
Rudyard Kipling, I know, brother. But the outro's going to be The Wrath of the Saxon, the Wrath of the Awakened Saxon. And I think you guys will all enjoy it. And I'm about to play it right now. And then I will see you, Dave, and all those links will be posted when this does happen. God bless, be well, be safe, Dave, and you are always welcome in Kaiser's Castle.
God bless you, brother. Thank you.
That's the truth. All right. Here we go.
Came to them very late, with long arrears to make good, when the Saxon began to hate. They were not easily moved. They were icy, willing to wait, till every count should be proved, ere the Saxon began to hate. Their voices were even and low. Their eyes were level and straight. There was neither sign nor show when the Saxon began to hate. It was not preached to the crowd. It was not taught by the state. No man spoke it aloud when the Saxon began to hate. It was not suddenly bred. It will not swiftly abate. Through the chilled years ahead, when time shall count from the date that the Saxon began to hate.
And that is it for this time. I'd like to thank Kaiser Shuff for allowing me on his fine program. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening. Be vigilant in this killing time of Ramadan. And as always, may your God go with you. Goodbye. The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2019. Anno Domini. Now for Dave's Canes. Extras that help you navigate the new media world.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic, concealed carry, and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.